I got 8.5 in IELTS listening, and in this video I'm gonna share you the exact step-by-step guide that top 1% of IELTS test takers use in their preparation journey. And I'm also gonna tell you mistakes that many test takers are making time and time again. I will also be telling you what skills you actually need to get 8.5 or above. By the way, I'm also gonna give you my genuine advice that helped me to get 8.5 in IELTS listening. My name is Azamat, and this channel is all about IELTS and English language learning. If you like the sound of that, please subscribe. So let's get into it. Firstly, let's talk about step-by-step guide on how I got 8.5 in IELTS listening. So, the first step that really helped me to get 8.5 in IELTS listening section is doing what I really enjoy. For example, I used to watch a lot of films, and that helped me to boost my listening skills. Listening to something that you really enjoy helps you to improve your listening skills, which are so important in the listening sections of the IELTS test. Instead of doing something that you don't enjoy, you should definitely watch films or do whatever you enjoy which is related to listening. And this step is so important in every single person's preparation journey because it's the fundamental thing that every single person has to do. Let's say you really enjoy watching YouTube videos, and it's a great way for you to boost your listening skills. And the next step is taking an IELTS listening practice test. It's so important that you resemble every single part of your mock exams as the real IELTS listening exam. And after taking that practice test, step number 3 comes in, which is being honest and reviewing every single mistake that you did. You might be thinking, oh, I should analyze the mistakes that I made in my mock exam. But no, you should definitely analyze all the questions in the test. Definitely use audio scripts, which is usually at the end of the Cambridge IELTS books, and this helps you to analyze where you made a mistake. And for example, let's say you are being distracted by the test. And what you can do is to analyze those distractions, prevent yourself from making those same mistakes over and over again. And let's say you're having problems with summary completion questions in IELTS listening, or you're having problems with multiple choice. And you can turn those weaknesses into strengths. Now, let's talk about the mistakes that a lot of IELTS test takers are making in their listening test. And those mistakes are actually preventing you from getting 8 or above in your listening score. And the first one is ignoring different types of accents. This is so important, and I can't agree more on this, because in my test, I had speakers who spoke in American and British accents, and listening to both of these accents helped me to understand the conversation better in the IELTS listening test. You might have a Canadian or Australian or even American or British accent in your IELTS listening exam. So the second mistake that a lot of people are making is having some spelling issues. To prevent that, you can use any vocabulary book or anything like that to learn some spelling common errors so that you will be aware of them. And the third mistake that many people are making these days in IELTS listening is not reading the instructions carefully. For example, in part 1, you may need to write no more than one word and or number. But if you have written 2 words, it is gonna be counted as a mistake because you shouldn't write 2 words in the place where you need to write no more than 1 word. So definitely make sure that you read the instructions very careful. It's so important that it can change a lot. Now you've understood the step-by-step guide that I implemented in my preparation journey to get 8.5 in IELTS listening, and you also have learned a lot about the mistakes that are ruining your score. Now let's talk about the skills that are actually tested in IELTS listening test. The first one is vocabulary. Without vocabulary, you can't get a high score because if you don't know a word, it's impossible for you to get a correct answer. So that's why I recommend you to learn vocab efficiently and try to turn them into active vocabulary. And in the future, I will also make a video about that, how you can learn vocabulary. The second skill that is tested in IELTS listening test is your listening skills, which are so important because if you can't understand, if you can't comprehend the monologue or a conversation, it's impossible for you to get a correct answer. So that's why you really need to boost your listening skills. You might be thinking, how? As I told you before, do what you really enjoy to improve your listening skills. Your IELTS preparation journey has to be fun. It has to be interesting. It doesn't have to be boring because you need to enjoy what you're doing so that you will have a very good productivity. It doesn't matter whether you listen to podcasts or watch films or watch YouTube videos, but make sure that you are doing active listening where you're actively listening to that video or film or a podcast, not something that is passive. The third skill, in my opinion, that is required to get a high score is predicting the answer. For example, in fill in the gaps questions, for example, you might think, well, what is the answer? Is it a noun, or is it a verb, or is it an adjective, or what is this word related to, so that you can predict the answer. It really helps you to get a high score. And in my case, it really helped me to get 8.5 in IELTS listening. The next skill that is so important in IELTS listening is attention. If you can't focus, you will not be able to get a high score. And you might be thinking, how can I improve my focus? And the simple answer to this is listen to something for a long time actively, not passively. For example, most of the time podcasts are between 1 and 2 hours, but if you don't enjoy doing it, you will passively listen to it and it's not gonna help you to improve your focus. But if you're gonna do something that you enjoy for a long time, for over 30 minutes, then you can improve your focus by actively listening to that thing. And now let's talk about my genuine advice that's helped me to get 8.5 in IELTS listening. The first thing is listening to something in 2x speed because it helps you to understand some fast conversations. For example, when I was watching YouTube videos, which I really enjoyed doing, I listened to them at double the speed of that video because it helped me to understand it at a faster rate. And in the IELTS test, in the listening section, I was not really overwhelmed by the speed of it. I felt that the IELTS listening test was so slow because I got used to listening to those videos at 2x speed. And the second advice that I'm gonna give you for those who are starting their IELTS preparation journey and wanna get a high score in listening is exposing themselves to different accents. For example, don't just listen to a person who speaks in an American accent, but also watch some videos of people who speak in a British or Canadian or even Australian accents, because it helps you to understand all of those accents. And in your IELTS listening test, if you will be exposed to those different accents, you will not have any issues at that time. The third advice that I would give for those who are starting out their IELTS preparation journey is thinking that practice doesn't make perfect. You can do thousands of practice exams, but your score might not even increase. It might also decrease as well because you will develop some bad habits that you will repeat over time. So in my opinion, practice doesn't make perfect. Instead, analyze the mistake that you're doing and identify your weaknesses and turn them into your strengths so that you can get a high score in IELTS listening. I wish I knew this. The last thing that many people ignore is staying positive. In your exam, even if you miss one answer, don't worry, stay positive, because even with one mistake, you can get a band 9 in IELTS listening test. If you want some reading tips, then watch the video that you can see on somewhere on the screen.